This Matchless dirt box came in. Owner says just stopped working. So first thing I did was I tightened all the pots. All the pots were loose. And once I had tightened the pots, I redid some of the grounds that had come loose because the pots had moved and reflowed some things. And I confirmed the switching was good. And let's move this, get rid of a glare. Change out the two preamp tubes to see if that was a problem. No difference. Now at that point, the behavior, which I won't play for you because if I do that, I have to discharge it again. It's a pain in the butt to discharge. This is a high voltage, about 300 volts here. It wants to store that. So it's doing the classic thing where either a grid leak or a cathode is not working because one of the stages was not biasing. So it's doing that real gritty, spitty square wave thing where almost no signal, but if you played really hard, a really ugly square wave would come out. And that's just a classic thing that tells me either a cathode or a grid leak. And I looked all over, could not find a schematic for this. I could find lots of schematics for the hot box, none for the dirt box. But it's a simple circuit. It took me about 10 minutes to draw this out. So this is the schematic for the dirt box. And when I was measuring all the resistors, this cathode, which is a very common one to fail in any amp such as this with a cathode follower driving a tone stack, this 56K, this is in a lot of ways similar to an AC30. This 56K measured open, and I know it was 56K because of the color bands, which I painstakingly was able to look up. What I thought was brown was green, and what I thought might be violet was blue, because I'm terrible at seeing the colors, but eventually I was able to confirm 56K, and it's this resistor right here. So I'm going to remove it and replace it with the new 56K and see if I'm correct, see if the sound comes back as I expect. All right, well that cathode resistor's changed right there. Instead of the half-watt carbon comp like the rest, I went and put a Vishay 1-watt metal film there. It's a little bit physically smaller, but it can handle more current and more voltage and is more likely to last. Speaking of lasting, the amp had a old JAN 12AX7 Philips in V1, but it was noisy. And it had a Sovtech 12X7A in V2, and it was really, really hummy. Most Russian tubes cannot handle the high cathode voltage of a cathode follower. And I think that tube was probably beginning to fail and drew too much current through the resistor. So I have got an old RCA 12AX7 here for now, and a Ruby 12AX7 WBC high gain in V2. And it's working pretty well. I can't show you right now because it's late at night and my wife is in bed. And she got up at like 4:30 this morning for work. I don't think she wants me to be testing overdrive or distortion pedals right now, which means that I don't want to. I first put in some new tubes here. This is a used new tube. I put a brand new tube in V1, and that position is really, really prone to microphonics. I put in 3 different new production tubes, and they were all just a little too microphonic. This RCA is pretty good. I'll call my buddies at Tube Depot and get them to sort out a real quiet 12X7 or 2 for this. Go with a Slovakian or Chinese for the cathode follower position. And now that I can hear the circuit working, because that resistor is not failed, and it has 2 tubes which pass signal, there's just a really high hum level for such a simple circuit. And I think it's just a matter of 30-year-old filter caps. It's got 3 450 volt 22 microfarads here. And then it's got a 10,000 microfarad. Can't see the voltage, probably 25, 35 volts here. It's got a DC supply for the heaters, a 6.3 volt DC supply for the heaters and LEDs. That's the filtering on that. So it should have almost no hum whatsoever with DC heating, but it does. So it's time for some new filter caps. Just 4, fairly simple to do. I'm not going to unwrap all these old leads off this bus bar because that's multiple wraps, but I can wrap the new capacitor leads around that and get a very secure connection. Like most matchless things, this thing is a little bit overbuilt to the point where it actually stymies it. You know, it's way past the tipping point of benefits, and it just makes service very difficult without making the build quality any better. You can get to a certain point in the construction where it's really great, but still easy to service. And all these additional wraps here don't really make anything in the amp more reliable. It just drives up a service bill. But I will call the owner and explain what I have found, and hopefully he will approve some new filter caps because they're inexpensive and easily done. And I also need to make sure that I can physically fit 3 F&Ts in there because they're a little bit larger than this in diameter. I may need to go to a radial mounting. I will figure that out. Only so much real estate.